6 p.m. in a day in the Senegal Maritime Division. Same time right here in the Littoral region. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. First, our major stories. Heavy floods sweeps across streets in the town of Boya, precisely at the Sandpit neighborhood in the southwest region today, causing significant damage to buildings and homes. And also we'll talk about the Anglophone crisis. Despite the continuous killings, burnings, abductions and displacements ongoing in Anglophone Cameroon, Cameroon-born diplomat Philemon Yang, president of the 79th United Nations General Assembly, sidelined the Anglophone crisis at the United Nations General Assembly. He was speaking while presenting his priority projects at the General Assembly. And away from that, a new case of monkeypox has been detected in Dikiniminki, that is in the central region of Cameroon. The information was made public by the Minister of Public Health, Manauda Malachi. As of now, 46 suspected cases have been recorded, 6 cases confirmed, and 2 deaths registered. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television. You made the right choice. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Inhabitants of Sandpit, a locality in Boya, are counting their losses after heavy floods swept across several neighborhoods in that part of the country. They spoke to our reporter Annabella in the course of this report.
God help us in Cameroon on a ghost town like this on Wednesday.
Sandpit Boya, early Wednesday, September 12. The entire quarter and its environs are inundated following heavy rains which battered the city of Boya and other towns of the region.
Today, this morning, we got up only to realize that there was high rain and recorded by neighbors that rain has entered the shop. And honestly, not the first time, this is not the second time, not the third time, not the fourth time. It has always been like this all this while. When it is high rain, we always face difficulties. Rain always enter the shop. Look at most of my properties have been damaged. I've taken them some to the dry cleaner. So we are.
Business persons in Boya say they have lost colossal amounts of money after their goods were destroyed by the runoff.
We have incurred losses, and a lot of us will depend on this little store then for our living. That's where our livelihood depends. So when our things are being destroyed like that, you lost any heavy rain, you lost more than 500,000. At times you even lost up to 1 million.
Some of us are IDPs that have come to settle, and if we start facing all this, then it's like we are not part of the Cameroon.
According to the locals of Sandpit, one of the main causes of this inundation in Boya is blocked roadside gutters.
The problem is the gutters. The gutters have been blocked so many times. They are doing nothing about it. We need them to clean their gutters. We are trying our best to make our environment clean. If you look around our environment, you see that everything is always neat. We are always in a very clean environment, but the gutters are always blocked.
The rainy season is still here, and the population of Boya insists that in order to avoid loss of lives like in previous years, the Boya Municipal Council must be proactive to prevent further floods in the town of legendary hospitality.
In that part of the country, as the transport sector is one of those areas that has witnessed a decline in activities since the escalation of the ongoing Anglophone crisis. Several traders or drivers have been killed, with others seeing their vehicles burnt down. Drivers in this part of the country say they have now become targets. Our reporter Seri Chakutio spoke to some drivers and now explained to us the challenges faced.
Of the war in the English-speaking regions, those transporting passengers from Douala to towns in the northwest and southwest regions complain that business has taken a downturn. The number of daily trips to these destinations has drastically decreased.
Now it's very complicated because, as you can see, we are just putting our lives at risk. No matter the traffic, yeah, we could do 2 trips, but now it's not even possible to do one because when you come and see vehicles, no passengers, some people go and come back and tell you it's not easy, the road is dry, so you become scared and maybe you can just decide not to go.
Since yesterday, Monday, we are facing a lot of difficulty for load our cars because in those days, as this particular period, every of we will be short for merely 3 trips per day. But now, the situation for the ghost standard, like I said, the population is afraid. Nobody outside. Even when you are walking on the way, you can see, as I come up for Limbia, I'll come out Limbia alone to Douala. So you see, if you are not even happy for the car, I cannot travel.
The motor park at Rond-Point Daido has lost its dynamism. Tourists, students and traders who usually travel to these regions now rarely come due to the socio-political tensions.
Nous avons tellement de difficultés sur la rue du Sud-Ouest. Encore maintenant qu'ils ont déclaré que c'est la situation ville morte, les gens ont de la peur pour y aller, mais les obligations qui nous amènent là-bas.
Most of the vehicles parked along the road remain empty. Driver must therefore wait long hours before being able to fill their vehicles.
Difficult because business places have been shut down, workplaces. Now even when we go to the road, passengers are not there. It's affecting us. So it's because of fear. We just pray to God that we don't meet them on the way. Then normally the way we drive when we pass with speed, unusual speed that we used to drive.
Très difficile. Tel que vous le voyez. Vous voyez comment il n'y a personne, c'est pas facile parce que si les passagers ne voyagent pas, nous n'allons pas manger. Donc ça veut dire depuis lundi, nous sommes en souffrance.
A few days ago, separatists through an amateur video announced the implementation of a general lockdown in these two regions in crisis, a situation which for drivers has to change.
We talk something else. Dismissed from the National Shipyard and Industrial Engineering Company, Christian Emmanuel Bitang decries what he qualifies as an attack against him by the company's top management. He attributes his dismissal to the fact that he spoke publicly about the bad situation of the company. Our reporter Babla Jonathan spoke to him and the general manager of the company and compiled the following report for the 6 p.m. news.
We're wrongly done, and nobody could even open the mouth to say that something wrong is happening.
He braved the odds to talk about the falling situation of the National Shipyard and Industrial Engineering Company, Chantier Naval, in the inside. Christian Emmanuel Bitang even predicted what he called a slap, a punishment the interview would attract.
I will make myself slapped.
And eventually, a quarrel later was served him by the general manager of the company. This was followed by dismissal, which he qualifies as arbitrary.
This decision that has been taken just because I've taken the courage to say the truth to this nation, even this decision is a wrong decision. Everyone around me say, you have to leave and go back to Europe. But I think that our nation cannot be built up if all the talented and skillful Cameroonians leave and go abroad.
He's also accused of usurping the title of Deputy Commercial and Operations Manager, but he says he was recruited in that capacity.
When we concluded our agreement, our contract, working contract, it was to come and work as the Deputy Commercial and Operational manager of this company. All the meetings that I've been holding with all parties as concerning the welfare of this company was in the quality of Deputy Commercial and Operational Manager of this company.
In response to a request for an interview on the issue, the top management of the company told us that procedures and the internal rules and regulations of the company have been respected in the dismissal of Christian Emmanuel Bitang. Therefore, no comment.
Babila Jonathan reporting there. In health, a new case of monkeypox has been detected in Dikiniminki, that is in the central region of Cameroon. According to the Minister of Public Health, out of the 6 confirmed cases recorded, 2 persons have already died, as A.C. Luciliengu tells us.
Since the resurgence of the monkeypox disease in the country, 48 cases have been recorded, with 6 confirmed cases and 2 deaths. Recently, a new case of the mpox disease was diagnosed in the central region.
On August 13, mpox was declared as a public health emergency of continental security by the Director General of the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC. These 2 declarations call on countries to implement multi-sector intervention to combat this contagious and deadly disease.
However, the epidemiological situation of the country has also been marked by the COVID-19 pandemic, wherein as from 2020, 548 positive cases and 1,964 deaths were reported, while in 2024, 300 cases of COVID-19 were diagnosed. Though no case of cholera has been identified this year, Public Health Minister says,
as for cholera, although no outbreak have been reported in the course of 2024, the rainy season and recent floods in the far north and north regions compel us to remain vigilant.
Generally, Cameroon has recorded a series of preventable vaccine diseases.
On the other hand, since the end of 2023, our health system has recorded the re-emergence of certain vaccine-preventable diseases, notably diphtheria and whooping cough.
Considering the fact that these diseases can be fatal, measures are underway.
Catch-up vaccination campaign have been scheduled to improve vaccination coverage diseases which are certainly fatal.
Preventing the spread of epidemiological diseases is a major concern for health officials in the country.
And over to one of our major lead stories. Former Cameroonian Prime Minister and Ambassador Philemon Yang has taken over as the 79th President of the United Nations General Assembly. Outlining his priorities, Philemon Yang says focus will be prioritizing efforts in resolving conflicts in the Gaza Strip, Haiti, Ukraine, the Great Lakes regions, and elsewhere in Africa, failing to mention Cameroon. He considers them as intractable conflicts while calling on the United Nations General Assembly to unite against all these. We have details with Fomi Armstrong-Sander.
Now installed as the President of the 79th United Nations General Assembly, His Excellency Ambassador Philemon Yang of Cameroon says the cornerstone of his mission will be to build on the principles of unity in diversity. Addressing the 193-member World Organization, Philemon Yang called on the General Assembly to intensify its determination to prioritize the resolution of conflict, notably in the Gaza Strip, Haiti and Ukraine, which he considers as the intractable ones. On the other conflicts, Philemon Yang called for a durable solution to the situations in the Great Lakes region and elsewhere in Africa. To Philemon Yang, the United Nations General Assembly must demonstrate that international cooperation remains the most effective tool at her disposal for addressing the profound and borderless issues confronting the world. These important global challenges, according to Philemon Yang's scale, include climate change, escalating conflict, and a slowdown in sustainable development. Speaking after his election in June this year, Philemon Yang said that he is convinced that through dialogue, through consensus, talking together, and looking to the future, the world can solve problems. Ambassador Philemon Yang further described the United Nations General Assembly as the highest body at the global level, which serves as the lone forum where states in their diverse opinions meet to jointly seek solutions based on sovereign equality. Refined diplomat, ambassador, and Prime Minister Philemon Yang comes from Aucun in the northwest region of Cameroon, one of the two English-speaking regions hit by an unending conflict in the country. While calling on the United Nations General Assembly to prioritize efforts to resolve conflict in the Great Lakes region and elsewhere in Africa, it remains uncertain how much of the conflict in Cameroon is contained in his elsewhere in Africa. Young Philemon will preside out the upcoming gathering of world leaders at the United Nations General Assembly, built for September 22nd to September 23rd, 2024 in New York.
Fomi Armstrong-Sander reporting there. Now we talk sports. 2 matches played, 1 win and 1 draw. This is the score of the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon as they ended the qualifiers break on Tuesday. According to a football trainer, Benzele Gil, some tactical changes weren't respected by the head coach, while a former Indomitable Lions player, Joseph Kanga, sees success in the current squad if the coach is given a free hand to work. Sports reporter Smagic and Gabriel has the details.
It is with a draw that the indomitable Lions ended their AFCON qualifiers break as they were held by the Warriors of Zimbabwe in Kampala, Uganda. A football trainer blames the draw game of the Lions on fatigue. The players were heavy and we played a lot behind. Because of that, the opponent noticed that we didn't use the sides to play and can't also play inside the field. Owing to the performance of George Nkudu in the game against Namibia, Mbezele Jules questioned his absence. Nkudu, who was very useful in the last match, was an unused substitute, and we don't still understand why he wasn't used when he was very great at the left flank. If the football trainer found some tactical errors in Cameroon's game against Zimbabwe, a former indomitable Lions player says he is confident that the current team will go places. When we have a goal scorer in a team who hasn't scored, even if it's the last second, the coach still has confidence that he can make the difference. In all, we had a very good team, but lacked physical fitness. For him, if the team remains disciplined and serene, it's a very good team that could give us results. In the two games of the AFCON qualifiers played Saturday and Tuesday, the Lions have grabbed 4 points out of a possible 6. They meet again next month when they will confront Kenya in a day 3 and 4 encounters of the AFCON qualifiers, Morocco 2025.
Sportsman Smart Jikan Gabriel ending this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Tonight on Talking Point, I'll be receiving Sama Abang-Mungwa. He is a social commentator and we'll be discussing on back to school within the context of war ongoing in the northwest and southwest regions. Good evening, Sama Abang. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight.
Yes, Immaculate, thank you. Happy Monday, happy new month of September. It's my pleasure once again to be on set.
Sama Abang, how do you envisage this new academic year with regards to the security context in the northwest and southwest regions of the country?
There is nothing new that I expect, Immaculate. It's a deja vu scenario where there is a ping-pong fight between the separatists and the activists and the government on the other side, with the teachers and parents and the learners caught in between the web of two dangers. And so it's a deja vu. We have experienced this for the past 6-7 years running. And so it's our own version of normalcy being maintained. We are aware of the fact that there have been ultimatum for non-school resumption by the armed separatists with conflicting dates of their own version of a school resumption. It is not the first time we are having this cacophony. Our only regret is that in the midst of this and along these lines, lives would be lost definitely because of the show of force and the show of supremacy with one faction or the other trying to assert themselves and show that they have control of their territory. You will find collateral damages on the part of learners, on the part of teachers, on the part of parents who would be used as guinea pigs to demonstrate their show of force and their position of relative strength. So we are used to it. It has not come by surprise. We only need, as the endangered species in between, to take precautions at our individual levels or even community levels to minimize the risks and the dangers that we face.
Now, Samabang, the fighters announced a 2-week lockdown in both conflict-hit regions. Do you think teachers and students, especially those in the suburbs, are ready to brave the odds despite the security threats that we are facing now?
Exactly, Immaculate, as you say, there is the ultimatum from the separatist fighters, but it is not exactly 2 weeks, as you say, because, as I said earlier, there is a faction that has said schools would only resume in what they call Ambazonia as from October the 2nd, after they would have celebrated or commemorated their Independence Day on October 1st. And in the midst of these disagreements among themselves, you would definitely see instances and cases where the civilian population, the teachers, the parents, and the students would be at high risk. And in that, we can only call on parents to exercise caution. We can only call on teachers to exercise caution. We can only call on the students to exercise caution. It depends on where you stand that you can determine the temperature of your surrounding. And there are areas where the October 2nd ultimatum will not hold. There are areas where it would hold to the latter. There are areas where the September 17th deadline would be respected. And I think whether people will be able to brave the odds and bail the cat would depend on where they find themselves, who they listen to, and their measurement of the risk and the danger factor in and around their communities. Basically, we know that there are places in Fako division, there are places in Momo division, there are places in Menchu, Boyo, Bui division, where there will be no schooling, whether community schooling or not, till after October 1st. But there are places in the Northwest and the Southwest where there will be effective school takeoff from today, Monday, September the 1st. But there are other places that where people would have to wait and be patient till September 17th. So as I said, it depends on where people find themselves and their measure of the danger that surrounds them.
The Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Pauline Nalova-Lyonga, had earlier shared exercise books to some laureates. These books had on their cover pages the image of the head of state. Critics describe it as a campaign strategy rather than prizes. What's your opinion on that?
Immaculate, I have had the opportunity to talk on this issue earlier somewhere else, and I'm not going back to my words. It's a show of shame. It's a show of political immaturity. It's a show of political amateurism. It's a show of political Lilliputism. I should say it's a show of political naivety by somebody who has, by a person, a personality who has come to be appreciated for the groundbreaking innovations she has introduced in her ministerial department. There is no gainsaying that Professor Mrs. Nalova-Lyonga Pauline has made long-lasting innovations in that ministry for her 6 years in that ministry. Let me just give you a tip of it. For the first time in over 10 years, Immaculate, we have had a complete movement of personnel at the helm of that ministry before school resumption. Principals were appointed on time, bursars were appointed on time, other school officials were appointed on time, and transfers of ordinary teachers were done on time. That's the first of its kind in over 10 years. I hail her for that. Madam Nalova has gone further to introduce what we call the e-learning platform, which is being received, which is being presented to UNESCO by the Prime Minister today as I should say, a groundbreaking innovation to make education possible in a crisis situation. Not only the crisis in the Northwest and the Southwest, but in a crisis where we have a shortage of personnel in remote areas. She has made that platform easy and available for even students in the Northwest and the Southwest in the absence of, in the midst of war, to still have time to study. That is groundbreaking. I don't know who her advisors are. I don't know who lured her into that error. But I think it is a show of shame, especially at a time when we know there is an executive mantra where the head of state himself said, school for learners and politics for politicians. And rather than come with an open mind to donate material to deserving students, you use it as a ploy for political campaign. What was the essence of you indicating that this is our national candidate, our natural candidate for 2025, which marks the real intention and the real motivation behind that gift?
The governor of the Southwest region, Benau Kalabilai, continues to call on civilians to terrorize the terrorists. We saw lately on the news that was on Monday, we saw the governor visiting schools in the Southwest region while in an armored car. Is it possible for someone like you, who doesn't have a gun or an armored car, to terrorize those he terms as terrorists?
If I were to specify, and I'm sure the governor himself was like specific, that terrorize them by systematically denouncing them, which means that the weapon that the civilian population have in their hands is to play the role of the Congosan masters to provide information to security and administrative forces. But again, it is as easy as it may sound. It is a double-edged sword, especially given that we are in a war where a lot has been exposed. You don't know who a real terrorist is. You don't know who a supporter, a sympathizer of the terrorist is, because as we speak, Immaculate, you must accept with me that we have had reports, confirmed reports, of men in uniform who have been caught in the act of selling ammunition to Amber fighters. You have administrative and military personnel who have infiltrated the ranks of the Ambazonians, and so tapping information for the benefit of the regime and the government. And so it becomes difficult. I always remind people of the case of at a funeral in Limbe of a teacher who was slain in a Kondo Titi, how the then divisional delegate for secondary education challenged security operatives in the presence of the governor and the minister for secondary education. Asked them how they expected civilians to collaborate and provide security information when, by the next time you do that, information leaks to the separatists and you are fished out. So it becomes difficult. As good as it is, it is not as easy as it sounds. Yes, you may tell people, if you see something, say something. If you see a danger, report it. If you suspect a terrorist around you, report it. But you are not sure of the person to whom you are providing information, because there are so many beneficiaries in this war, both in the shadows and in the open. Masks have fallen, and we have seen those we least expected to be collaborators who are actually collaborating with either the separatists or the government on the other hand.
Social commentator, thank you so much for your time. That's what we gathered for you on today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Coming up next is Equinoxe with Serge Alain Otu. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing. Bye-bye for now.